And Thursday evening, as Chicago's former mayor, who was hired to investigate Dalton Mayor Tiffany Henyard's administration, revealed the shocking spending of taxpayer dollars.
Drama in Dalton. Credit card transactions amounting to thousands of dollars without explanation and millions more owed to vendors.
A bombshell report highlights just how much financial trouble the village of Dalton is really.
They say the village is facing financial disaster and they blame the mayor for mismanagement. She says this.
The revelation by former Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot about a much deeper fiscal crisis than anyone had anticipated has stunned residents of Dalton and Thornton Township, areas already grappling with significant financial struggles. The community is burdened by millions of dollars in debt, a situation that has steadily worsened over time. Many locals who had long been aware of the financial difficulties have become increasingly frustrated and are now calling for Dalton Mayor Tiffany Henyard and Thornton Township Supervisor to step down. However, Henyard has shown little remorse for the mounting accusations of financial mismanagement, corruption, and favoritism that have plagued her time in office. Her administration has been overshadowed by scandals involving embezzlement and the misuse of public funds. Despite public protests, Henyard has continued to ignore the concerns of her constituents, further deepening resentment and mistrust within the community. The news that an FBI investigation into her actions is underway has added to the community's anxiety, overshadowing any remaining support for her leadership. Henyard's tenure, marked by extravagant expenditures such as lavish trips funded by taxpayers and a questionable $85,000 audit, has earned her a reputation for squandering public resources. People fear that, as her time in office draws to a close, Henyard may leave Dalton and Thornton Township in financial ruin due to her lavish spending, misguided projects, and failure to manage critical public services. According to Lightfoot's financial analysis, a shocking $36 million is missing from Dalton's general fund, which has only fueled public outrage. The loss of funds, combined with years of neglect, poor management, and unethical behavior, has left residents questioning how one person could cause such harm to their community. Services like Thornton Township's food assistance and senior programs, as well as essential transportation services, have suffered as a result of Henyard's decisions. The ongoing FBI investigation has sparked a glimmer of hope for some who see it as a potential pathway to justice and accountability. Many are calling for a complete overhaul of leadership in Dalton and Thornton Township, hoping that a change at the top will restore integrity and financial stability. Critics have pointed to Henyard's repeated absences from important meetings, particularly those aimed at resolving the insurance crisis, as further evidence of her lack of commitment to the community's well-being. For residents, this crisis has become a stark reminder of the human toll that leadership failures can take, as the most vulnerable in the community are left to suffer. The growing opposition and calls for Henyard's resignation reflect the widespread belief that the community needs a new direction if it is to recover and rebuild from the damage caused by her administration.
Sources that federal agents are in fact interviewing witnesses as part of a possible investigation that may or may not.
The controversy surrounding Tiffany Henyard escalated as a growing number of complaints emerged, particularly from business owners who accused her administration of selectively targeting their companies for not supporting political events linked to her. These allegations painted a troubling picture of a government more focused on personal and political agendas than fostering a strong local economy. Business owners described an environment of fear and retaliation, where refusing to align with the mayor's political views allegedly led to arbitrary fines, harsh regulatory actions, or even forced closures. Critics argued that this behavior was an abuse of power, weakening the financial stability of the businesses essential to the town's prosperity. Public trust in Henyard's leadership continued to crumble, as these claims fueled anger among residents, who accused her of prioritizing personal interests over the well-being of the broader community. As a result, Henyard's already strained relationship with the business sector worsened, creating widespread frustration and calls for greater transparency and accountability. But the scandals didn't stop there. Further evidence of financial mismanagement and misconduct surfaced. The public's perception of Henyard's administration as a failing one became increasingly solidified. Many saw these incidents not as isolated, but part of a larger pattern of self-serving leadership, leading critics to argue that Henyard's time in office had become untenable. Despite mounting backlash, Henyard denied any wrongdoing, dismissing the accusations as baseless attempts to discredit her. However, her refusal to directly address the grievances of citizens and business owners only worsened tensions. This lack of resolution deepened divisions within the community, with opponents pointing to these allegations as further proof that Henyard's administration prioritized political survival over the town's economic and social well-being. Her reputation suffered further as critics labeled her leadership unsustainable, and calls for her removal grew louder. The fallout from these controversies spread beyond the business sector. Residents began to lose confidence in Henyard's ability to govern effectively. Many saw her actions as a sign of a growing disconnect between her priorities and the needs of the people she was elected to serve. With public trust rapidly eroding and evidence of misconduct mounting, speculation swirled about whether her administration could weather the storm or if this marked the beginning of the end of her political career. The accusations of power abuse, financial mismanagement, and retaliation undermined her credibility, leaving both residents and business owners questioning her ability to recover. Despite her denials, her lack of meaningful engagement with those raising concerns only intensified frustrations and bolstered calls for accountability. Now, as scrutiny reaches new heights, it remains uncertain whether Henyard's administration will survive the crisis or collapse under the weight of mismanagement and misplaced priorities.
Both of the Dalton bars that were raided and shut down last night, we visited the day before as part of our ongoing investigation into allegations of political corruption in Dalton.
They just rushed in here, put police at the front of the door like they was doing a raid on the drug houses.
A team of Dalton police officers raided and shut down Pablo's Bar and Cafe and Rinky's Bar and Cafe, both located uncivilly about a block apart.
Everything going peacefully. Nothing going on. It's like 10 police cars came in and they start pushing customers from here.
The controversy surrounding Dalton Mayor Tiffany Henyard intensified as local business owners and workers accused her of waging a persistent campaign of harassment that cost them both jobs and money. These business owners claimed that their licenses were revoked by the village despite continuing to operate under state jurisdiction. As the situation escalated, the controversy took a major turn when former Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot was assigned to investigate Henyard's alleged misconduct. However, Henyard's response to the investigation was swift and hostile. Initially, Henyard deflected responsibility, attempting to shift the blame for Dalton and Thornton Township's growing issues onto the village trustees. This only deepened tensions within the local government and further distanced Henyard from a community already wary of her administration. Henyard dismissed Lightfoot's inquiry as politically motivated, aimed at tarnishing her reputation. But as the investigation unfolded, it exposed a pattern of financial mismanagement and corruption directly linked to Henyard's actions. The investigation revealed that Henyard had embezzled public funds to cover extravagant expenditures that had minimal benefits for residents, such as expensive travel and lavish personal perks. Questionable contracts and financial practices led to deficits and irregularities, all of which pointed back to Henyard's administration. Despite this mounting evidence, Henyard continued to reject the findings, calling the investigation a personal attack on her leadership. Her resistance only fueled public indignation. The more Lightfoot's investigation uncovered, the more it exposed a troubling pattern of waste and a lack of transparency in decision-making, while Henyard and her supporters maintained that she was being unfairly singled out and that the village's financial issues were inherited. An increasing number of officials and residents called for accountability. They saw Henyard's attempts to deflect blame as desperate and unconvincing. As the investigation progressed, the divide between Henyard's supporters and detractors deepened. Her supporters insisted that she was powerless to solve the issues, while her critics viewed her actions as a clear attempt to avoid responsibility for her administration's failings. Each new discovery from Lightfoot's investigation seemed to validate the worst fears of Henyard's critics, further eroding public trust in her leadership. Calls for her resignation grew louder, as did protests demanding immediate corrective action to restore integrity to local governance. Instead of stepping down, Henyard doubled down on her claims of innocence, which only reinforced the perception that she was unwilling to accept responsibility for her administration's mistakes. As time went on, it became clear that the longer Henyard stayed in office, the more the public saw her as incapable of making the necessary reforms to resolve the crisis. Lightfoot's investigation revealed even more serious issues, such as allegations of bias and unethical behavior. These findings underscored the deep-rooted challenges facing Henyard's administration and signaled that the consequences of her leadership extended beyond local concerns. The investigation highlighted the urgent need for structural changes in Dalton and Thornton Township, stressing the importance of accountability and transparency in government. Whether or not Henyard faces legal repercussions, the controversy surrounding her administration has left an indelible mark on her legacy. Amid the escalating scandal, Dalton's Board of Trustees passed a resolution demanding that Henyard turn over the village's financial records and called on the FBI to investigate her alleged misuse of public funds. While Henyard admitted to a $2 million deficit, the trustees rejected her request to have the FBI look into her actions, with many viewing it as an attempt to shift blame and distract from local inquiries. This move demonstrated the trustees' lack of confidence in her leadership and highlighted the growing rift between Henyard and local government representatives. The trustees' overwhelming vote to override Henyard's proposal sent a clear message of defiance against her leadership. Critics argued that Henyard's call for federal involvement was an attempt to divert attention away from local accountability and demonstrate her awareness of the severity of the situation. However, many saw it as a politically motivated move rather than a genuine effort to resolve the issues facing the community. Township watchdogs criticized Henyard for putting her own interests ahead of the community, arguing that her efforts to recruit the FBI distracted from the urgent need to address local problems, such as overburdened services and the erosion of public trust. The Board of Trustees' decision to override Henyard's veto reinforced their commitment to maintaining local control and accountability during a time of crisis. It reflected their determination to restore stability to a government that had been rocked by scandal. For residents, it was clear that tackling the underlying problems and reestablishing effective governance should take precedence over Henyard's attempts to shift the focus to external investigations. The vote signified a collective effort to prevent further disruption caused by Henyard's erratic decision-making and stabilize a broken local government.
Governance.
To the secret scroll meetings, yes, that the Board of Trustees have.
The trustees vowed to override her veto. One of them, Kiana Belcher, sitting at the meeting with her portrait because she says it was removed from the wall of Village Hall.
And this is just a process to drag it along, but everybody sees what's going on.
The village, under Henyard's leadership, is cracking down on access, pushing media at tonight's meeting to the very back of the room, almost out of sight of public comment from residents. But their voices were loud and clear.
Everybody cares about the person that's making a mess.
Henyard placing the blame elsewhere.
But only judge when you got both sides of the story, not one.
One resident expressed their frustration, saying, "You lied to us. As residents, you don't stand for me, and I want you to step down as mayor today and save our village from the deficit you caused." Another resident added, "The mayor can blame everyone else for what's happening, but she needs to look at herself. Nobody told her to go on TV and act like that." Meanwhile, under Henyard's leadership, the village has grown increasingly insular, with media access severely restricted during meetings. Journalists were pushed to the back of the room, effectively out of sight, while public comment was downplayed. Everyone cares except for the one causing chaos and shifting the blame elsewhere. But you can only pass judgment after hearing all sides, not just one side, one critic said. Despite persistent allegations, Henyard has maintained her innocence, often dismissing criticism as discrimination against Black women. She has refused to address questions regarding her infamous Las Vegas trip, where she allegedly spent thousands of taxpayer dollars on airfare, hotel, and meals. She continued to position herself as the leader, saying, "Don't forget, I'm the leader. I am the mayor, not the trustee. I'm the one making a difference, not them. Of course, I'm the one out here trying to help, giving away $1 million to pay your rent and mortgage." We are getting scrutinized in these meetings for what? For showing people they matter? However, Henyard's image began to unravel. After it was revealed she had embezzled millions from the general fund, leaving it in financial disarray. Efforts by news organizations to reach her were unsuccessful, and the village's daily operations remained in the red with a staggering $7 million deficit. Meanwhile, spending continued to rise, including a 21% increase in police department expenses. As of June 8, 589 checks totaling more than $6 million had been authorized, but never sent to vendors. Additionally, 2 officers had earned more overtime compensation than their regular salaries, and 6 different credit cards had been used for purchases, including a $440,000 payment to Amazon. These charges were made without proper receipts and are now under investigation. Despite claims of fake news from Henyard, one official was candid about the financial crisis, saying, "I knew we were broke, and I broke it down so the other residents could hear what was really going on." Furthermore, despite repeated requests for an interview, the village administration failed to provide an exact timeline for Henyard's return to the Pack Community Center after she was reported absent from the building. During a trustees meeting, it became clear that Henyard's actions were far from those of a leader who truly served the people. Instead, she was accused of using public funds to support her lavish lifestyle, revealing a disturbing pattern of financial mismanagement and a blatant disregard for the welfare of the community.
His credit card spending is out of control. Mayor Tiffany Henyard didn't respond to any of my requests today, and I'm told she's not in the building. No response to repeated interview requests. I tried to track down Dolton Mayor Tiffany Henyard in person today. Village employees told me she wasn't in the office and didn't say when she would be, a day after this. A packed community meeting